Okay, welcome everyone. As you may have heard, we are going to record the session. So glad that everyone is here. I hope you can see my screen. Yes, thank you. Okay, I know many of you on the line, some of you I don't. My name's Louise Petrozella. I'm the Education and Workforce Development Senior Program Management here at BioMADE, and this is the second in a series of webinars for us focusing on the projects from project calls 1 and 2 with BioMADE. So again, happy to you could join us, and we'll go ahead, just a brief introduction about BioMADE. We are supported through the U.S. Department of Defense in a public-private sponsored relationship. And these are some of the things we're doing here to help assist in building the hugely growing bioeconomy across the U.S. We're very interested in really bridging the gap amongst industry and academics, and really being at the forefront of helping connecting people and developing worthwhile projects for the education and training of bioeconomy workers. Our vision and mission is here. We're interested in building a sustainable domestic end-to-end bioindustrial manufacturing ecosystem. Hopefully you'll take a look at our website, BioMADE. There's lots of great information there for you to get a really deep dive on what we're involved with. But again, we're focusing on a couple of our projects from education and workforce development today. We do have a series of these webinars scheduled. The next one will be in February. We're highlighting a couple of projects out of North Carolina. And then in March, we'll hear from one of our newer projects focused on biosecurity, and our project out of Hawaii, really focused on sustainability. So today we've got a newer project again. Dr. Natalie Kuldell is here with us from BioBuilder to talk about this particular project. Natalie, if you were here last month, was presenting on her first project, so we're excited to have her back again. Natalie will talk for 20 minutes, and then we'll throw to Dr. Joe Weber with STEMconnector, and we'll hear about the landscaping project that they've been working on to really determine what's going on in the U.S., again, with bioindustrial manufacturing. Once Joe is done presenting, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions and answers. You can go ahead and type those questions in the chat box, and then we can have a nice facilitated discussion. Okay, again, welcome everyone. So pleased that you could join us this afternoon, and we will go ahead and have Natalie kick it off today. Thank you, Natalie.
It's such a joy to be back and to be able to talk about this second project that is made possible with BioMADE support and some new directions for the work that we're doing at BioBuilder. Last time I started in sort of an oddly personal way. This time I'm going to zoom out and go the opposite direction and talk a little bit maybe more generally. Because as I was preparing this talk, I realized that I don't always articulate why it seems sensible to me and to us at BioBuilder to focus on high school, and in particular high school biology. I guess the simple and maybe short answer is that this is where the students are, right? State funding provides K-12 schools in all 50 states in the District of Columbia. There are 24,000 or 25,000 public high schools in America, which vastly outnumbers colleges and universities. About 15 million plus students are enrolled in high school, and this year there'll be 3.7 million students graduating. So that's a lot of people, of individuals who could potentially be participants in this bioeconomy that we're growing in the country. And, you know, importantly, as we think about just an inclusive bioeconomy workforce, the enrollment in the public schools reflects the population of our country, right? So here's some data from the National Center of Education Statistics that shows, the broad range of ethnicities in public education. And then there are three other points that may be a little bit less obvious for why we should think about high school biology and come up, that it is a pressing need to come up with a strategy to rethink how we teach biology in secondary schools. And one important piece of this is that for many, many students, this is the last chance they'll have to learn biology in any kind of formal way. So here again is some data from the National Center of Education Statistics, which looks at adults around the country who are 25 or older and their level of education attainment. And if you look in cities, about a third of the adults there have graduated from high school and not further, right? And not furthered their education past that. If you start to look at rural communities, that number goes to more like 50% of the adults in rural communities graduate from high school, but do not continue to pursue education past a high school diploma. So that tells you that we really need to get high school right, and high school biology right in particular. Interestingly, there is a measurable gap in how we are doing, not just for biology, but in general. It's encouraging to think that the graduation rates for public high schools have risen to the highest level since they've been measured by the National Center. So 86% of students are graduating from public high schools. But in a survey that I was just reading last week, and there's lots of data that looks like this, but this came out last week. If you ask students, how they're feeling about college and career, about 3/4 of them feel moderately, slightly, or not at all prepared for college and career based on their high school graduation and their high school curriculum. So, on the one hand, we have more students graduating, but that in some ways just means more students not feeling prepared for whatever comes next. And then the last piece that I'll point to before we turn to how we're trying to address this urgent need is that the industry really is looking for students who could be prepared to join the bioeconomy. So this is a report that came out of the Massachusetts Life Science Center, Mass BioEd, about the bioeconomy workforce here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And the CEO of Mass BioEd is quoted as saying that Massachusetts will experience a talent deficit without candidates for as many as 11,000 good paying jobs over the next 5 years. That's in Massachusetts, right? We are arguably a biotech center, and still we are going to have a talent deficit. And it's high school is part of the answer, because when you survey employers, about a third of them will say that you need an associate's degree or less for these entry-level jobs. So, almost a quarter of these jobs could be filled by high school graduates. So, these are some of the reasons that I think high school and high school biology in particular is an urgent need to come up with a scalable, reliable strategy for improving how we do. We have to get this right. So what is the holdup, right? I guess it depends on who you ask and what data you're looking at. Here is one group's answer. It is from a group called TNTP. When they look at the work that students are doing, about 70% of them are succeeding on their in-class assignments, and yet fewer than 20% are succeeding on grade level exams and standardized tests. So what they see as a need is for more grade appropriate assignments, for stronger instructions, for deeper engagement, and for teachers with higher expectations of their students. As I say, there are lots of potential interventions that we could think about, and BioBuilder, my nonprofit organization, is trying a number of projects and programs, and our goal is always to inspire students to learn and to love life science, because we really do believe that through that kind of engagement, that personal desire to learn and feel a part of this experience and the opportunity, we will attract people into this field. And so here are just a couple of quotations from students about their experience with BioBuilder. All of these were just in this past year and as part of our annual report. So I thought I would just put that up there. But, a lot of concept learning in high school become valuable in college, deciding what you want to do in college, teachers feeling like this curriculum is student-centric, These are things that I do think can really change the way biology is happening in high schools. So BioBuilder as a curriculum focuses on a design, build, test cycle with biology. And we call it comprehensive because we have multiple points of entry, many ways to do workforce engagement, which is the topic of my BioMADE conversation last month. This month is more of a in-class or extracurricular activity for students where they will be engaging with the engineering of biology as an after-school club activity. We also have programs for educators as well as for industry professionals. There's a lot to talk about with BioBuilder, and I will only focus on this one student program, which is thriving thanks to BioMADE support. So this one student centric program that we run is called the BioBuilder Club. And if anybody on the line is familiar with the iGEM competition, this is quite similar in structure to the iGEM competition, with the exception that this happens during the academic year at a student's high school. It's really directed towards high school students who are using synthetic biology to design, build, and test their own project ideas. It is much less expensive than iGEM, and it also involves mentorship of practicing bioengineers. So BioBuilder Club has existed for, well, this is our 10th year running it. Over the first 9 years, we've had about 1,800 students participate from 25 states, Canadian provinces, and 9 other countries. And some of the reason for the success of this club is listed here. And each of these items that I'm showing on the right-hand portion of the screen are some ideas that I'll talk about just very briefly in my remaining time. Participation is less than $50 a student for a 6-month program. We start in October with a kickoff event. We have club activities each month, Zoom meetings, trainings, professional development. We pair teams with mentors. We send them kits, and then in March, they do a final assembly where they present their work. So that's just the broad scope of the club. This year, we have 32 teams in 11 states, about 133 students participating. As of a couple of weeks ago, we always survey the students. We asked about race and ethnicities, and you can see this is a majority minority activity. And I think the low cost point is an important part of that, making this available. We also survey what students are learning as they go. This is one of our questions. I can confidently identify the symbol for a promoter from those 4 that are shown there. You can see that the students are not confident at the start of this as to what they can identify as a genetic engineering symbol. And this does change over time. We continue to survey their understanding and their confidence. This is another question we asked this year. The symbols in the figure are in the appropriate order for a gene expression unit, and the majority here don't know what the symbols mean. If our experience in the past years holds, this data will improve over the course of the club, which is great. But we have not really formally done an assessment of the work and the student learning, especially comparing different student environments for learning and benefit from this content. And so with BioMADE funding, this project call allows us to partner with East Tennessee State University and a wonderful professor there, Professor Pam Mims, who I just yesterday got to look her up a little bit and found that she had just won a research award in Australia. So congratulations to Pam. But she and BioBuilder, thanks to BioMADE support, are going to be able to do a real investigation into student learning, and in particular compare outcomes in rural and urban BioBuilder clubs. So it should be a very interesting study, and I'm grateful very much for the partnership with Pam and ETSU. Students need to learn a lot to be able to do a good job in this program. And so as teams really get started, we pair them with a professional bioengineer to help mentor their teams. This year, these are just some of the places that our mentors have come from. If you are watching this webinar and you do not see your logo on this slide and you think you should, or you would like to have your logo on this slide next time I give this talk, please do reach out. We would love to have more scientific mentors involved. There is a 10-hour time commitment over Zoom and remote guidance of teams to answer their questions, guide them to papers, give them feedback on their experimental ideas and the results that they're gathering. So please do reach out to BioBuilder if you are interested in participating. Teams will all receive research grade lab materials to support their projects. And this again is part of what BioMADE funding is supporting. We are working with Arbor Bioscience to provide a transcription translation kit in which students are able to build a genetic switch. We have had the chance to develop new protocols, send kits just last month to all of the teams and get feedback on them. This is some data, some evidence from the students who have participated in this Arbor Bioscience activity that we sent them as part of the BioBuilder Club. Oak Park and River Forest High School in Illinois. And if that is not the best name for a high school, it's just awesome. So you can see the Arbor kit on this team's table, and they're doing that work. And then the Tyngsboro High School in Massachusetts also performed the experiment last week and sent us the data to post to Slack. We have a Slack channel that all the teams participate in. We have other industry partners in this. O'Reilly is the publisher of our BioBuilder textbook, and they provide those textbooks at a deep discount for our teams. Carolina Biological Supply Company provides discounted laboratory kits to our teams. Next year, they will actually be providing a coupon to the teachers who participate at the outset in case there's additional equipment that those teachers need. New England Biolabs has always been a great partner for providing molecular biology reagents, and K2 Scientific this year is providing cold storage units to 4 teams. We have a drawing every month, so they can have a -20 or a combined -20, -4, and we have a drawing for a new freezer to each team this year as part of the BioBuilder Club. The season concludes with a final assembly where students present their work. That will be in March, and everyone is invited. It would be great to have you. The students give lightning talks and then have PowerPoint presentations and poster sessions. We document all of their work on a project library at BioBuilder, but very importantly, they also have the chance to go through the peer review process of their project ideas and their data through the participation in a peer-reviewed journal for high school synthetic biologists, which is called Biotrex. It is produced by Ars Biotechnica. This is an example of one of our BioBuilder Club teams from last year who published an article just in October in Biotrex. It goes through a peer review process, and they have a published document that they can cite and that will be cited in future as they go forward as scientists and bioengineers. This year in particular, we have a new biomanufacturing track that we are really eager to have the students explore and participate in. I think that the kits from Arbor will help support that. And we will be partnering with mentors who are familiar with biomanufacturing to encourage the students to really dive into those ideas. So that's the broad description of the work we are doing. There is a research study underway with ETSU. We have an educator portal for these reagents that we're building with Arbor Bioscience, and a teaching kit using transcription translation reagents. And we're working with Ars Biotechnica to develop further manuscript training materials to help student authors as they prepare their work for publication. And so this is my last slide. You know, BioBuilder has many ways to engage students, educators, and industry professionals. So this is one program that we love. It has a tremendous impact over these past 10 years. And I think it is growing dramatically thanks to the support and the work that we can do in partnership with BioMADE. So that is my talk. I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Natalie. Really looking forward to the research that comes out of this with ETSU. And as I mentioned at the top, this is one of the newer projects. Natalie's been at this for just a few months and moving ahead at lightning speed. It's just a wonderful endeavor here. Okay, again, thank you, Natalie. We are going to turn to Dr. Joe Weber and STEMconnector. And Joe, if you're ready to kick it off, you could share your screen. Thank you. Except I think you're muted, Joe.
Thank you, Louise.
There you are.
Hopefully you guys can see the screen. Is that coming through okay?
Yes, we can see it.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks, Louise. I'm Joe Webber. I'm the CEO of a company called STEMconnector, and we've been working with the folks at BioMADE really on a project around similar, in some ways, very what some of the work that Natalie was doing. I think it's very telling as you start to get into looking at the gap that we have between the knowledge kids are coming out of school with, either high school or college or university, and what's really needed in the workforce. And we started to take a look at that as part of this program. And let me just move my slides on. There we go. So the way we tackled this was we started to look with an environmental scan. So there's a framework called PESTLE, which is a framework for looking at political, environmental, sociological, technical, technology-related, legal and environmental issues, all surrounding a particular area of research that you're going to do. So we started with this environmental scan to really get an understanding of the current gaps and the potential undiscovered assets in the bioindustrial manufacturing workforce, and really to try and gain knowledge of the factors that are affecting the industry. Now, as we started this body of work, it was quite interesting. There's been some pretty seismic programs coming through from the government, focusing on STEM and STEM education. So there's actually been a lot of change over this last year. And I think what the change is going to do, things like the 52 billion Chips and Science Act that was passed in July, it's actually just going to mean that we need more and more STEM-ready skills in the workforce. So we started with this environmental scan. Then we went into an innovation lab, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what they are and why they are useful in this. From that, we started to develop a workforce gap analysis tool, working with individuals in the industry to try and understand what skills are missing. When students or young people come into the workforce, what are the typical things that they are missing? The next phases for us is we produce an informational ebook, and this really is putting out information about bioindustrial manufacturing. We connect these ebooks. This is something we've been doing for a few years, and we have a distribution across universities, colleges, and schools. Teachers, really, we can see quite a lot of pickup on our ebooks in terms of they become part of the curriculum in schools. So we are very excited to be building the ebook right now, really putting out a lot of information about bioindustrial manufacturing and the careers in bioindustrial manufacturing, and putting that information into schools, into colleges, and so on. And then finally, we wrap this program up, or this part of the program up, with a second innovation lab. So in terms of the environmental scan, it's available to all of you as members of BioMADE. And there's a QR code on this screen here. If you shine your phone at it, that will take you to a page where you can download it. We conducted over 30 interviews with companies, universities, really all areas that are either working in bioindustrial manufacturing or some facet of bioindustrial manufacturing, or schools and universities that are really trying to prepare their students for careers in this field. So please, by all means, download that. It's available to you. So now I just want to talk a bit about the Innovation Lab. So the first Innovation Lab took place at the wonderful College of San Mateo in California. And if any of you have got teenagers like me, when you see that in campus at the College of San Mateo, I was walking around that going, wow, I wish I'd gone here. You know, it's a stunning campus. So we were thrilled to be hosted there by the folks at San Mateo. But let me talk a bit about, or actually I'm going to show you, right? Because I think a picture paints 1,000 words, says 1,000 words. So this is a little bit about what it looks. First of all, we started a visit to Mission Barns, and Mission Barns are doing some incredible work here where they're basically creating meat products from animal cells, but without the animal being involved in any way. So it's really looking at meat generation using this technology. We then worked with a number of students, and they came and presented at an evening event where they talked about some of the work that they were doing, in particular projects involving, you know, biology in lettuce in space. That was a very interesting one. We're looking at how to grow food while people are in space, especially as we start to look more at you know, getting to Mars and some of the adventures that NASA, I think, is going to take us on. So that was just a bit of a look at the two events that we had beforehand, and then this is what you know, the event actually looked like. Here we've just got a little bit of video, a series of convenings. As you go through the video here, you're going to see some people are still wearing masks. Unfortunately, you know, we were still at that time. We seated everybody quite far apart, trying to make the most of some social distancing there. And I say we had a variety of presenters, and these events work by having people come and present and show what they're working on, show and share their learnings. But then there's a big part of it where we start to analyze and say, okay, let's look at what do we need here? What are the challenges? What are the main challenges? So, and there you go, the sunshine and the lovely weather wasn't too bad for us up there. Okay, one of the things that we started to develop as a result of that first meeting, that first innovation lab, is a gap analysis tool. And we went out and surveyed the BioMADE members who came to that meeting, and also BioMADE members who couldn't make it, but were available to be surveyed. And we were asking the question of, you know, when you take young people in from high school or college, what are the skills that are missing? So what are the skills that you would rate as the highest need? And I think there's a couple of things that we were a little surprised at with this. The first was, there was a big, we got a lot of comments about this work needs to continue. It was clear that this work people hadn't been asking these questions. So it seemed like this was a real important thing to analyze. I think we expected some of the more in-depth technical skills to be higher, but really what it was a maximum point scale of 21, and things like an understanding of standard operating procedures, the ability to work as a team, understanding of FDA and USDA regulations and what they mean, you know, current GMP practices, understanding that companies have to be audited and that you have to do document review. A lot of skills that you just don't get taught in high school, but are so critically important. So we found this very interesting. This body of work is still continuing, and further findings will be presented at the second innovation lab. And if anybody on this call would like to contribute to this and they're not already contributing, you know, please let me know. We'd love to get more opinions on this. So the next phase we're starting to move into is our ebooks, which are, I find these super exciting. It's we focus in on a particular industry, and obviously with this we're focusing in on the bioindustrial manufacturing. We're really focusing in on the kind of jobs and opportunities that exist in a particular region or a particular area. So for instance, I mean, I'll just give you one example. When we looked at saving the planet in STEM, we quickly found out that 90% of deforestation is illegal. And one clever young person figured out they could take cell phones, string them together, put them in the jungle with solar power to keep them going, and the cell phones could listen for buzzsaws, chainsaws. And if they heard a chainsaw, if the phones picked up a chainsaw, it could alert the authorities. So some really, really cool things come out and get exposed in these. And we've been sharing these, as I say, with schools, universities, and they found their way into the curriculum. So we're very excited about the one we're working on right now, the bioindustrial manufacturing one. It will go out to the STEMconnector network, which is a pretty large network on its own of K through 12 colleges, universities across the United States. We also focus heavily in, I think diversity has always been part of our DNA. We focus very heavily in working with HBCUs, minority serving organizations. We work with a network of schools across the United States, Title I schools. So it really takes the information, the opportunities that exist in bioindustrial manufacturing. And how exciting is it, to be in this area where we can take plastic out of the supply chain. So some of these advances are very exciting to Generation Z, the generation coming through. They want to work in these kind of environments. And I do feel this is really enabling them, along with, like some of the things that Natalie's doing. I thought that's a tremendous program, that BioBuilder, really showing that instead of the very dry biology tuition that I'm sure many of us went through at school, really showing the applicability of how you can take these skills and use them the rest of your life, use them in the workforce. We have a STEM daily communication that goes out to around 10,000 people. That's another one of our dissemination mechanisms. BioMADE is going to be featuring some of these in the monthly newsletter. And we also do a lot of work with targeted social media. So we expect the bioindustrial manufacturing ebook through the various sources. It will hit it will get exposed to a population of around 2 million people across the United States. Now, here's somebody who was one of the pioneers in science, Isaac Newton. And one of his quotes, I think, that I really have always loved. I think a lot of times, you do get some scientists have a bit of a God complex in terms of like, they're the ones that invented it. It couldn't, I did this, I'm so smart. And I think Isaac Newton from a very early stage was very much able to give credit to others. And I think it's important that, we get so much further when we work together. And that's what the innovation labs are all about. So I would welcome everybody, if you can, come to the next one. It's a great chance to see really different things that are going on, different technologies. The visit to Mission Barnes was phenomenal. People really, really enjoyed that aspect of being able to see that use of bioindustrial manufacturing. The student presentations, growing of lettuce in space, just from cells, just really interesting uses and applications of bioindustrial manufacturing. So if you can come, it's going to be in the Atlanta area. I don't believe we have secured, we've got a location yet, but that will be coming up soon. But we do have the dates, Wednesday the 15th and Thursday the 16th of February next year. So we would love to see everybody. And again, if you've got any questions on that about, what else you need, or you want to get onto the list for that, let me know so we can make sure you come. So that's it for me today. I just want to thank a big thanks to Louise, Tom, and the whole team at BioMADE for making this work possible. A special thanks to our project partner, Dr. Karen McDonald from UC Davis, and our host committee, which is Dr. Nick Kapp, a professor at Skyline College, and Ted Wells from our company STEMconnector. He's our VP of Client Services. Again, I've got the QR code down there. If you are interested in the environmental study, it was pretty extensive. And a lot of people were interviewed to really pull that together and get that finding together. And I say the next thing you're going to be seeing from us, the next output from us is going to be more on that gap analysis tool and the ebook, which all of you will be sent that ebook as well. Well, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Joe. That was wonderful. We appreciate the information. We're going to open it for questions. I think just a quick follow-up, Joe. when will that ebook be available for everyone?
It's a good question, and I should know the answer, right? I think it's going to be early next year. I know they are working on it now. I've seen some of the work on it, and I was going to tell you it was kind of a real cool thing in there, but I don't want to spoil it. But they found some really kind of fun things in there. I think early next year, it will definitely be available by the February event, the Innovation Lab, if not sooner.
Excellent. Okay, I do have some questions that have come through. Christine is writing those down, but looks like I have the first one here for Natalie. And again, thank you to both of the speakers. Natalie, a participant is curious about the demographics of the students who attended the clubs and how they match or don't match the broader demographic data you shared earlier.
Yes, I saw that come through the chat, and I was frantically looking for my last year report on the demographics of the students. But the one data slide that I showed you of our pre-survey, we have about 30%, 35% white, 35 Asian, and then Black and Latino are the other, make up the rest of that. So it is you know, I don't know how it compares to the broadest swath, but we have students who represent not only different ethnicities, but different school settings. So we have career and technical ed schools, we have urban schools, rural schools, we have charter schools, we have private schools, we have religious schools. So, you know, I think that when we think about the demographics and drawing students from the broadest of communities, that is certainly a lot of what we look at and how we measure our success.
Great, thank you, Natalie. Question came in for Joe. Joe, can you say more about how your ebook finds its way into the high school curriculum? Is there a fee? How do you know how much the books are used? That's a great tracking question. And are they used in community colleges as well?
Sure, no, it's a good question. I've just pulled up a slide here of some of the last places. So we distribute it to, we have a number of connections to colleges through STEMconnector, through our network. So we distribute it to the various colleges and also additional ones, and then some of them pick it up. And the ones that picked up the last ebook, just to give you some idea, American University, Tuskegee University, Harvard, Rice, Portland State, Valencia College, Alamo Colleges District. So you've got a mixing of 2 and 4 years there. Colorado State University, University of Iowa, Clemson University, Cleveland Metropolitan School District. So it really is mixed. Chicago Public Schools of North Carolina, Broward County Public Schools, Seattle Public Schools. So there's a real mix of interest here. I think a lot of it depends on how we connect to the teacher. Some of these teachers we know over time. We started with the Saving the Earth is STEM. That was the very first ebook we did. And after that, certain people some of these schools connected to us and said, make sure we want to be on this list. So now we've done a few of them. We've just released one on energy. We did one on semiconductors, environmental science. So it started, it started small, and then as it's built up, we've just got a little bit of a following. And I think the secret is, and this is probably not going to work because we've got the background on. I was going to kind of try and show you one, but no, the background's killing it. And you see a little bit. The secret is it's digestible chunks. So you can take a chunk and do a lesson plan on one of these areas. And I think, and it's very colorful and graphical and everything. And then what we do is at the back, and also in our environmental scan, I'd encourage you guys, we always do, like, here's where, there you go, education and career pathways. So we always kind of show people how, if you're interested in this, here's how you can get, more information on that.
That's great. Thank you, Joe. Good information. Kind of a follow-up for Joe, but I think this could be for Natalie as well from Rachel. Can you speak more about how you recruit students? And Rachel, maybe you want to speak up. Maybe that's more directed toward Natalie with the BioBuilders Club. I'm not sure.
I'm so sorry. I totally meant to write Natalie. Well, if you have any questions or, comments to add, I'd love those too.
Okay, Natalie, throw to you.
Sure. We have many points of entry to our BioBuilder curriculum. And, in some ways, when everybody got sent home in March of 2020, it really accelerated a lot of thinking that we had to do within our organization to make sure that we could reach students and, meet the needs that they had. And we've kept a lot of our online programming, even now that students are back in person for in-person learning. So students and teachers often connect with us through some of our online programming, through our teacher professional development. Some people will start with what's called our Idea Accelerator, which is a 3-week online program to get sort of the juices flowing around what they could build with biology. And then they go into the BioBuilder Club to actually build it. Some of our teachers take our professional development workshops and decide that they're very excited to bring this into their schools, but they're a little nervous about bringing it into their formal classroom. And so they'd like to start with an after-school club where students are self-selected as interested in this topic. So sometimes it's teacher professional development that leads us to building teams. And then some schools have research programs that are always looking for ways to support student research. And so that is another sort of often we hear that a lot, that students will come in because they have a capstone project as part of their curriculum. Sometimes it's other programs like Project Lead the Way, and sometimes it's iGEM. So, it's really a variety of points of entry, and it's hard for a small organization like ours to keep them all these plates spinning, but I think it's really important that people can find their way in because it is so diverse. And when they're interested, we really want to give them a path to engage with that fits with what they want to do.
Awesome. Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks, Natalie. So follow up, Natalie. I think, again, you answered the question about how schools get involved, how students are recruited. Is there a limit to the number of schools you can accommodate right now, Natalie?
I mean, we are building a scalable organization. BioBuilder, I really hope, if I have the nice opportunity to present again in a year, I hope we're 40% bigger than where we are right now. If we could grow that much every year, I think we'd be on track. Our stated goal as a nonprofit organization is to get this content into every high school in America. I can't think of a single school that shouldn't be doing something like this, and that shouldn't be rethinking how biology is taught to their students, and include the idea that biology can be used to solve the world's challenges. So that is our goal. BioBuilder Club is one approach that we take. Training teachers is another. Bringing in industry partners, showing people, that the students who are graduating from high school are going to be the workforce of the future and the talent pipeline. So we have lots of things happening, and we are putting the infrastructure in place to support it. So yeah, always looking for partners though.
That's right. That's right. And I love your vision, Natalie. I think that's wonderful. Question about the duration of the curriculum with BioBuilder. Is it geared towards a 1-hour-a-day class or an after-school event?
Yeah, many of our teams meet after school. Some of them have a flex time, or in Tennessee, where we have a really deep partnership with some of the schools there, there's something called a skinny period, which is sometimes where students go to tutor or things like that, and students will use that or could use that for the BioBuilder Club. It really is such a malleable program, and we celebrate all progress, whether it's, an idea that students have that they've articulated, whether they've been able to build some of it and test some of it. Students sometimes come back year after year. Our team in Tingsboro has been working on the same project for several years in a row. I mean, what a great learning that is also for students, that things don't wrap up just because the semester ends, and that if they're really invested in it, they can keep at it. So it's intentionally malleable and flexible, and we try to accommodate and provide for as many settings as we can.
That's great. Thank you, Natalie. Back to you, Joe. For those who want physical copies of the ebook, is there a way to request that and get those sent? Perhaps a mailing list?
Yeah, you can. We can certainly. We have some physical copies. We don't have a ton of them. You know, we tend to supply it by a link. It's in a PDF. You can download all of them on the STEMconnector website. So it's just STEMconnector.com. One of the things that we did, I thought that was pretty interesting with the semiconductor one. If you go to the semiconductor one, there's a whole series of content around what does a career in semiconductors look like. So as well as the ebook, you've kind of got some information about what a career would look like. And we've also, you guys know about our Atlas Jobs platform. We've got the Atlas Jobs platform out there with semiconductor internships. I think Micron's got quite a few semiconductor internships. So with the ebooks, there is a way to kind of also show internships, jobs, apprenticeships, really to show the career pathways that are possible. So again, STEMconnector.com, and you'll see this. You can just get access to all of the ebooks that we have so far.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. We just Paul actually put the link in the chat for anyone that wants to click there. Natalie, go ahead.
Can I just underscore what Joe just said? I mean, when we hear from students, some of what is a really important aspect to them thinking about this as something they want to do is that there's some clarity about what this does in the world, right? Like many of the students who are participating, especially in our workforce program, are choosing between nursing careers and biotechnicians or biomanufacturing, and they have a much clearer idea about what nurses do and and that their family would be proud of them if they became a nurse. It's not always obvious that biotechnology is playing such an important role in the world. I mean, it's obvious to us because we're engaged in this, right? But it's not obvious to many that biotechnology is a powerful force for good and that they can be very proud of a career in biotechnology. And so I think that things like what Joe is describing are incredibly important. And we could all do a better job, I think, of really celebrating the good work that is done by this field.
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much agree, Natalie.
Yeah, thanks for those comments, Natalie. And BioMADE has funded several projects really focusing on building that awareness. And it is true, we need to let students know what is possible here in the bioindustrial manufacturing sector, for sure. Okay, Natalie, a quick follow-up for you. Does the curriculum with BioBuilder, does it focus any on SOPs and documentation training within that? Is that part of it? Yeah.
It is. It's at, I would say, a toe in the water kind of level. So we always emphasize documentation and notebook keeping and record keeping. We had toyed a little bit with electronic lab notebooks last year when we were doing our workforce development program. There are a lot of firewalls in a lot of schools that limit the ability of students to access some of these products and resources. So we have gone back to more traditional documentation, but it is something that they are that is graded and looked at. And then communication is a sort of abstract, it's a broader view of all the documentation, and we emphasize communication in so many ways, right? You can't work on a team without making sure that there are ways to let other people know on your team what is happening. And that's an important part of all BioBuilder programs, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. For both Joe and Natalie, I have a question about what are the possibilities for students with a high school graduate degree? What are some of the roles, what are some of the positions you found in the sector that those graduates can fill?
Do you want to go first, Natalie? Or I've got an opinion on this. Do you want to go first, or shall I start on that one?
If you've got an opinion, you go first.
It's, you know, with STEMconnector and with Atlas Jobs, we work very close with companies and hiring. And one of the things I've noticed is companies probably even a year ago would just go 4-year degree. This job needs a 4-year degree without almost thinking about it. And I really have seen that changing. And COVID, I think, has changed everything about the workforce. And companies are starting to adapt. They're not there yet. You've got Angela Kasani on this call. Angela is with the Bioscience Core Skills Institute. She deals with micro-credentials. And I can see this starting to come more and more of our customers, and our customers being corporate clients, are looking at this and saying, you know what, we don't really need a 4-year degree there. We actually could do with maybe in some cases a high school qualification, but with some kind of certification attached to it. So we're starting to see things like, and I was going to ask you, Natalie, if you do, because I could see this would be a real good use of those students after they go through that training with you. They should get some kind of credential, some kind of badge to show that they've done something that others haven't, and they've acquired a skill as part of it. So I think my thing is, I think we're going to see over the next 5 years a big shift. You know, there's still going to be the colleges and the universities. I think even community colleges after COVID, enrollment was down 40%. 40% of people who said they were going to go to community college then decided not to, as part of as what happened after COVID. So we're starting to see a rise of these, the ability for micro-credentials, a very focused piece of work. And I think some of the things that we saw in the deficits in that gap analysis tool, like being able to work with standard operating procedures, those can be really well handled with micro-credentials, or, you know, with the work that Natalie's doing with the students, giving them that education.
Well, thank you. That's a lovely endorsement. I appreciate it a lot. Yes, I mean, for us, there is a great deal of interest in the publication that Biotrex provides, because it is a way for the world to understand that these students have accomplished something that has currency, you know, if they go into academic careers and things like that. But if they are going into a job, there isn't something, I don't think, quite comparable yet, right? That the students could put onto their resumes or their LinkedIn profiles. And it is not only, I think, a disservice to the students, because it's hard for them to describe what they know and don't know, you know, through a certificate or a credential that doesn't have industry recognition of some sort. But I think it's also a dissuader for students to pursue this, because in other fields, if you're going to have a nurse, right, like I was saying, many students are thinking about nursing or biotechnology. If you're going to get a nurse, you want that nurse to know CPR, right? That you just assume that that nurse has been certified in certain techniques, right? A student who's looking to go into biotech, you know, they look at what is awarded to them or what they can put on their resume at the end of some program. And generally it's OSHA certification, but it's not, there's nothing specific about the skills that they've learned. And so it is a bit of a push-pull where industry should be recognizing some of the credentials and putting them into their job ads and saying, you know, people who have X, Y, or Z, we're really eager to see you apply, right? So it is, I'm hopeful that that will move forward.
Yeah.
I mean, Natalie and I have talked a little bit about that ourselves. Yes. So we're coming up on time. I do want Natalie to end maybe with an awesome, powerful, exciting BioBuilder Club project. What is a highlight for us, Natalie?
Gosh, there are so many,
So many.
cool ones. Let's see. Well, gosh, can I give two?
Yes, you do. Indeed.
These would be from last year because I was just looking at the project library, but one of them was the project that I showed a little bit of a paper about, which is a plant that would be sensitive to radiation and would be sort of like a radon detector, but would be in a living plant. So you could put it on your desk or into your basement or things like, into a place where you could have a living sensor, which would be a plant. And that's, I think, really fun. And actually, turning plants different colors is pretty cool. The other one that I'm very excited about, because this has been a project many years in the making, is one in which the Tyngsboro High School students have been trying to make a mosquito repellent. And they've been looking at limonene, they've been looking at lavender, and producing all kinds of essential oils in microbes. And they've done some testing about which have the greatest impact for mosquito repellent properties. And I think this year they're going to actually build the microbe to be able to manufacture this mosquito repellent and do some actual testing of it. So that's a pretty exciting project too.
That's incredible. I know a little bit about that project, and really the impact of the successful project like that would have great benefit to the whole global community here. Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to say thank you to Natalie and Joe again. I really appreciate your team's hard work. We really appreciate all you're bringing to BioMADE with your work. And I think that might be the end of the session here. Yes, we've got some links again in the chat if anybody needs to click on those quickly. We do have our next webinar coming up again in February. Both of our North Carolina projects will be highlighted there. We've got some great online modules being developed out of North Carolina State University, and in North Carolina, Greensboro, they're working with not only educators, but military veterans who are farmers to explore the microbes in the soil. You would be amazed at the hundreds of thousands of little tiny bugs in a little tiny soil sample. So please join us there. I wish everyone a wonderful and safe holiday season, and we look forward to working with you in the next year, 2023. Thanks again, everyone. We appreciate it.